Sandra, for more on this, let's bring in Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State, the former CIA director, and a Fox News contributor. So let me, if I could, Mr. Secretary, based on your vast experience, get you to weigh in on this idea. And the White House has actually been talking about this in one form or another for a couple of weeks now. Occasional pauses in the fighting in Gaza to allow either humanitarian relief to get in or try to get some of the hostages out. What do you believe the net effect of that would be?
Well, Johnny, even talking about it encourages Hamas to wait for those moments, right? To say, yep, we can get more weapons in, we can get more fuel stolen, we can do all of those things. The Biden administration has been very unclear about what they're asking for. They talked about temporary ceasefires. Now they use the term pause. These are all verbs to describe inaction. And so if you're trying to put pressure on Hamas in order to get these hostages home, and that includes all the people who were there, not just those held hostage, but folks who can't get across the Rafah border, and you're trying to redirect fires to a certain area to create a corridor, that's one thing. 20 minutes, a half hour, an hour, we know how to do this. But if you're talking about long, extended pauses in operations, that is deeply dangerous to those very hostages. It's bad for the Israeli effort to ultimately wipe Hamas off the map. And it sends a signal to the entire world that you frankly don't understand what took place on October 7th, and that you're prepared to provide money, hundreds of millions of dollars to Hamas in the middle of that is just deeply dangerous, John.
I want to replay that little piece of video from the president's event at Minneapolis last night that Peter Doocy brought us. This woman who stood up in the middle of the president's address and said that there needs to be a ceasefire. Listen here.
Mr. President, if you care about Jewish people as a rabbi, I need you to call for a ceasefire right now.
Need you to call for a ceasefire right now. Here's what Hillary Clinton said about that the other day. Listen here.
People who are calling for a ceasefire now do not understand Hamas. That is not possible. It would be such a gift to Hamas because they would spend whatever time there was a ceasefire in effect rebuilding their armaments, creating stronger positions.
Mr. Secretary, there may be a lot of daylight between you and the former secretary on a lot of things, but I think that you would probably tend to agree on that point.
You're about to make me commit a nearly unnatural act, John, agreeing with Secretary Clinton. But she's got this right, and I'm glad for that. And I'm glad she's taken that on board. And I'm glad there have been other Democrats, too, who have understood that the risk of a ceasefire, to demand that the Israelis conduct a ceasefire while they're doing the absolute necessity. We had peace on October 6th, right? There weren't 1,400 barbaric acts having been committed. There weren't 30 American hostages. On October 6th, Israel has this obligation to get this right, provide security for their own nation. I'm glad that Secretary Clinton and I share the same view, that a ceasefire would be an enormous mistake, and demanding this of the Israelis would be a foreign policy error of the highest order.
Of course, one of the things that we have seen on college campuses across America and in other places as well is a troubling rise in anti-Semitism. We've been looking to the White House to respond to this. Here's what the vice president said about it. Listen here.
We have seen an uptick in anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Semitic, and Islamophobic incidents across America. This strategy will be a comprehensive and detailed plan to protect Muslims and those perceived to be Muslim from hate, bigotry, and violence.
What did you think of the White House announcing this policy in the face of this really, really despicable rise in anti-Semitism?
Yeah, it's disgusting what Vice President Harris said, and it's disconnected. Disgusting in that it just fundamentally doesn't understand that it is Jews across America that are truly being threatened in large numbers, radically disproportionate numbers, even according to their own FBI director. And it's disconnected because it fundamentally is disconnected from the decency that I think every American demands, the religious tolerance we demand. You talked about the rise in anti-Semitism. What I think's really happened, John, is that we've just unmasked it. It was hiding in progressive institutions all across America for these past years, and just what happened on October 7th now unmasked it. And I think we're seeing it in ways that we never anticipated we would see. And it requires a full-out assault from all of us to put it back in the box. And to hear Vice President Harris speak this way and say the largest problem facing the United States today is Islamophobia misunderstands what's really taking place in our country.
And of course, the big problem facing Israel is if you let Hamas survive, what happens next, which is why Israel is so determined to decapitate Hamas. Listen to what Ghazi Hamad, who is a Hamas official, said to Lebanese TV.
We must teach Israel a lesson, and we will do this again and again. The Al-Aqsa flood is just the first time, and there will be a second, a third, a fourth, because we have the determination, the resolve, and the capabilities to fight.
You know, a lot of that could be bluster, Mr. Secretary, but he does seem pretty determined to destroy Israel.
Oh, goodness. I suppose as a tactical matter, it may exhibit some bluster, but it is also ideological. You can see there isn't a call for a two-state solution from this guy, as there was from Secretary Blinken. There's a call for a one-state solution, wiping Jews off of the map in Israel. That's their objective. That's their goal. It's why Israel must complete its task. And I'll add to this, John, and it's connected. I heard what Secretary Blinken said about his trip. He refuses to even utter the word Iran. You cannot begin to solve what you just heard in that clip that you played, or the confrontation between not only Israel, but Arab states, Sunni Arab states who are threatened by Iran as well. You can't begin to confront keeping the lid on. Secretary Blinken talks about trying to contain this, to keep it from escalating. There is one address that you can go to. You want the hostages back? Force the Iranians to tell Hamas to release them. You want to keep Hezbollah out of the fight? Force Iran, by applying pressure on Iran, force them to tell Hezbollah, stay out of the fight. There is a singular address that can be gone to, and this administration simply refuses to do it and has negotiated with them in ways that are indecent. And last thought, John, you talked about the Russians getting involved now. Make no mistake about it, the Russians and the Iranians were both sending drones to kill Ukrainian kids. This is all connected in ways that I think we all know. And I hope this administration will actually issue a statement that says Iran is at the foot of the problem, and we're going to apply pressure on Iran to allow Israel the space and the time to do the necessary.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.